Hello, everyone, and welcome to Profiles in Risk. I'm your host, Nick Lamparelli. On this rainy Saturday afternoon in New England, I am pleased to introduce Luke Magnan. Luke is the co-founder of Combined Ratio Solutions, which is a boutique provider of technology, solutions, and services to the insurance ecosystem. And before Combined Ratio Solutions, Luke held various roles at insurtech firms, including Zuber, Insurity, and Sword Agency Port. Luke, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Nick.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We have a mutual friend who recommended you and said you really need to interview this guy. He's got a unique perspective on insurance. So first, I always start off, Luke, by giving you a little forum to talk about your company. So you have a great name, Combined Ratio Solutions. I think it tells it all, but in your words, what is Combined Ratio Solutions?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I'm quite taken with the name, but there was a lot of discussion sort of to get there. There were some dissenting opinions. So Combined Ratio Solutions, really you said it. We're a boutique provider of services and products. So right now at Combined Ratio, we've got sort of two silos. We've got a services silo, which is the much bigger of the silos now, and a product silo. So from a services side, we have a team of sort of insurance expert developers, analysts, managers. We go in and help carriers really with whatever they want, be it sort of vendor selection for things, implementations, internal development tasks, or bespoke software. And then we use sort of the proceeds, the profits from that work. We funnel that into our product silo where, there's nothing we're in the market with right now. We're actively investing. But I think what makes us unique is that, we're not a software company that's out there raising money where we don't have angel investors. We're self-funding everything. And the advantage is that we're self-funding it by working with the customers that ultimately we want to sell to. So I think it's very unique out there. I don't see a lot of software companies doing it. But I think it provides us sort of a unique advantage and really influences sort of our product roadmap as we sort of move forward there.
Yeah. So before we segue into other questions, let's talk about that for a second, because I've been thinking about that deeply as well. The whole financing of insurtech or any kind of startup. Could you talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of self-funding versus going out and acquire, getting investors to come in and finance your growth?
Yeah, I'll give you my selfish take, and then I'll try to think about it more from a software company. But selfishly, I'll be honest with you. I think that early stage investment asks too much in terms of equity from founders, right? I mean, honestly, we're the ones out here taking all the risk, really applying our expertise that we've gained through trials and tribulations out there in the industry for years and years, turning over 50-60% of what that is. It didn't feel right to us. We did walk down very far in the beginning. We walked down the path initially with some prospective investors, and for various reasons that fizzled. And so it's certainly been scarier going about it sort of on our own. But once we sort of got those first few services companies, once we sort of were doing this, bootstrapped ourselves, the advantage is sort of control. It's control of sort of, the money that we're earning now, direction. And it means, I think, most importantly for a software company, that we don't have to make any short-sighted decisions. No one is pressuring us, for example, to get a shrink wrap product out right now, right? We've spent like sort of the last year doing services work, and we're sort of, we're biding our time. No one is telling us these are the sexy technologies. Let's get that in there now. It's 100% control that we have. And I think that's the big decision. And let me just say, it's not that we're anti-investment. I absolutely think there will come a point in time where we need to scale. And the only way to scale will be outside cash. It's the thing for me is I just don't like the thought of giving away so much so early.
I don't think you're alone. I think that's one of the big trade-offs. How much of an advantage is it that because it's bootstrapped, do you find that you're uber focused, Like you can boil down to, listen, we don't have a lot of resources. We really can't waste our time on things that will not generate any kind of revenue.
Yeah, I'll maybe say it a little differently. So we are uber focused, and we are uber focused on, I guess to your point, like the value of a dollar, right? Like we are not wasting money. I can get into sort of like what our company looks like if that's of interest, but the way our company works is because our team of insurance experts and developers, who's the best I've worked with, I worked with most of them at a prior company, they sit in St. Petersburg, Russia. And so, for example, there was a point when we were talking about taking investing money, it was, where are we going to open a US office? Like, where are we going to bring on people to sort of help us here? Where the minute it becomes our money, it became very easy to say, I don't need physical offices in the States yet. We can go with co-working spaces. We don't need an admin to answer the phone for us. Let's put more money into the development where sort of the dollar goes so much further. So I think that because the money's been ours, or money that we've just earned, the prior month, it's really let us maximize sort of where our money is going. And I feel that we can do a lot with very little money compared to maybe with what some companies that all of a sudden get a huge influx of cash can do with theirs.
Yeah, the huge influx of cash can be a problem. You be careful what you wish for sometimes.
Yeah, it's what I tell myself at night when I'm trying to convince myself.
Okay, so let's rewind the tape a little bit and go back in time. And you have other co-founders. So what did you see in the market that you decided was not being, the market was underserved? What was not being done properly that you decided we need to form a company that's going to solve this particular problem? What did you see, and how did combined ratio solutions get started?
So I guess I think what we saw was, so I'll preface this by saying that I am a predominantly commercial insurance person. A lot of my opinions probably wouldn't apply to personal. And I'm, personally a little more focused on the policy side of things as opposed to claims. So I would say that, I've spent a lot of time in a lot of IT shops working on a lot of different type of products, both as an employee of a carrier, as well as sort of on the vendor side, working inside of there. And I think things are too hard and too expensive in technology for commercial insurers right now. I think that we've all heard these stories of billion-dollar policy administration replacements, which I think is crazy. And I think that, portions of that are that the decisions, the highest level decisions to replace things are crazy. I think portions of that are also, though, that there seems to be a big gap in terms of the third-party help that carriers can bring in right now. I think on one side, you've got the big consultancies filled with really smart people and really expensive people who know how to land and expand. And before you know it, you've got 85 suits sort of, walking you in directions that might not be in your best interest. And then on the other side, I think you've got a lot of sort of one-off organizations who, are built around a single person, again, with a very high rate card, who are offering very, very tailored help, but they can't scale. And I think that there was a gap for just an organization that could come in, land really smart, expert people, understand the problems that you're going about, and then apply a really attractive rate card against that work with a very skilled workforce. I mean, certainly, when we're out there, again, sort of the culture that comes from our shop in St. Petersburg is what differentiates us from other people trying to do services work. And so I just think that, they really, our ability to sort of set up shop there with our co-founder over there, that was really what said their availability is what told us, hey, this is a real option. Let's grab this. Let's jump on this and let's invest in this, because it's so much better than I think a lot of the other offshore options out there in the industry right now.
So could you go into some of the legacy issues that current carriers have, and how you first, I guess, like how you intend to solve them, but potentially what a carrier should be thinking. So I worked for a carrier that has a massive IT legacy problem. even to this day, they keep kicking the can down the road. So go into it in this way. What should carriers be thinking about their legacy, and how do you advise them to potentially solve some of these problems?
Yeah, and let me preface it by saying that this is a topic that, my own thinking about it evolves on a daily basis, and I think it is very circumstantial. But I guess what I would say is that no one understanding, like, I don't think it's enough to understand that there's a legacy problem. I think that it's better to understand, like, really what would be driving any investment to make anything better. Is it a speed to market problem? That, hey, I got a system on the AS400 and it takes me 18 months to get the 3 employees who know it out the door? Is it a distribution problem? Like, listen, I'm trying to get these systems out in front of my agency channel, or, maybe even my consumer channel. The system's too ugly, they hate it, I can't do anything else. Or is it like a burning platform issue, which is, I'm on the mainframe, IBM charges me a rent that's ridiculous. I have to get, off of that somewhere else. And I think that the answer to that, combined with how much is in your sort of existing legacy systems, I think that needs to drive the problem. I will tell you, and this is from someone, I've worked at 3 software vendors before starting this company. I have sold big, giant core platform replacement solutions, and I've worked on a lot of these projects. I am a little cynical about the dollars invested in core system replacement and whether or not there's ever sort of big payoff for those dollars. I can tell you that here in town, I think that there's a carrier doing just an enormous hundreds of millions of dollars of policy administration replacement. And I just don't know what circumstances could ever make that worthwhile. But maybe for them it does. I can tell you that there are some smaller insurance companies, people more along the lines who we're working with now, who they've got limited books of business. They're working really out of the box compared to what we see in the industry. It makes a ton of sense for them to say, okay, let's figure out a migration strategy and go talk to some vendors and figure out how we can jump on there. So I guess it's a convoluted way of saying I think it's very circumstantial. And I think the number one thing carriers need to be prepared to is not walk into the conversation already having a direction in mind. I think walking in saying, okay, let's buy a Pol admin system is the wrong way to go about that. It should be more, these are the problems, this is where we have pain. Let's figure out some options to solve that pain, weigh all of that, and then decide, do I need to reinvest in what I have? Do I need to throw it away? Or is there smaller software we can sort of bolt on and solve some problems much quicker and more effectively?
How much of a problem is it that the CTO revolving door keeps occurring at some of these companies? I almost feel as though they hire a CTO, they make a bunch of changes, it doesn't quite work out. They fire the CTO, they bring in a new one who does a whole bunch of new changes, and it just seems like a revolving door that just keeps making the problem worse. Do you see that?
So I see it all the time, and I probably see it more with the big carriers and the small carriers, but maybe that's just my experience. Look, I'll tell you that I think it's an absolute huge problem. Maybe just a quick anecdote about me. I came up, I wanted to be a computer developer, went to school, the dot-com bubble burst. I ended up as a COBOL mainframe programmer at a giant carrier, and it wasn't what I wanted to do, and I fought against that old technology for a long time.
Wait, so was that your first entree
my first
into
adult
insurance?
job?
Okay.
Oh yeah, and I could talk about it. It shaped who I am. It was the best opportunity that took me years and years to appreciate. But at the end of the day, that was a well thought out system that had been modernized because it had been held closely by a very, very consistent group of people. CTOs, I don't even know they were called CTOs, but the CTOs, the CIOs, and those sort of the architects who really felt ownership for it over years, right? They had kept teams together and they had kept systems together and done everything in a good, responsible way. I couldn't agree with you more that without like multi-year leadership and leadership that begins with enough credibility in the organization to really hold the line, I don't know how any organization is going to end up with anything but a mess from a portfolio perspective. I absolutely see it. Where else I see it, incidentally, is we got a lot of big mergers going on right now in the industry. So even companies that have done really good jobs, the minute you've got sort of another insurer coming in, who wins there, who loses there, even with the best intentions, I think you've got a big road bump now in terms of your continuity for decision makers. And I think it's difficult to make good decisions in that environment.
Yeah. So before we came on, we were having quick discussion, and insurtech's becoming this massive thing that's occurring, and I'm confused. So there are issues with distribution. There are issues with policy admin, as you described. I scanned your site when I was doing research on you. There's accounting systems. There are seeding reinsurance systems that are there, and everything in between. And you have all of these insurtech companies like an army of ants attacking all of these different areas. And now I'm confused because I feel like there's a bunch of small solutions, but I don't feel like there's an overarching. And I see that we're going to keep stumbling because it's going to be difficult for companies to kind of put the right solution together in the right order or something. How do you view the insurtech landscape? And what's being done, how it's being attacked? Are companies attacking the right problems? Give me your sense of how you view that landscape.
Sure. So I guess the first thing, it's a complicated thing, this insurtech, and
I give you full forum to talk for as long as you want.
Oh, that's dangerous. I'm glad it's early in the day and I haven't had a chance to have a drink or two because I could get going. But I guess the first thing is insurtech to me, just as a moniker, is very confusing. So I think you have to immediately decide whether we are talking about insurance carriers, maybe new insurance carriers who are doing different things with technology versus software companies. So you've got like the Lemonades and the Metro Miles. I sometimes see them as insurtech, or maybe more often a lot of these MGAs who are doing more useful thing. To me, that's a completely different industry from the software vendors trying to solve things, although we're sort of all in the same place. But so I guess the first thing I would say is that, I'm not an insurance company. I don't have to manage ratios and have underwriting discipline. I think that outsiders who want to come in and play in insurance, they've been very noisy. I think we've seen some questionable underwriting results out of a lot of those companies lately. I think they get by. I think they're very good at raising money. I think they're really good at partnering with reinsurers, right? I think that a lot of I think that capacity is at such a commodity right now, given the soft market, that it's been a perfect time for people to come up and find insurance capacity. What I don't see, though, is I hear a lot of rhetoric about modernizing insurance and changing insurance, and we don't need actuaries and we don't need industry experience. And personally, I just don't think that that's true. Again, I'm always coming at things from a commercial insurance lens too. So maybe, you've got some of this personal, these startups that become very good, and maybe a big chunk of personal insurance does, I guess, go through more non-traditional companies, entrants. But I don't think commercial insurance is ever going to look like that. So, to everybody that's saying that, insurance is going to change, I see a lot of quotes about how fundamentally the industry needs to change. I don't put much stock in that personally, but that's not what I'm here to do. I did not set out to change insurance. And as a company, I feel it's strong that my experience working with insurance companies is they don't want outsiders to tell them how to do what they think they do best. So I want to work with insurers about how they want to change. And I think that that's where a lot of insurtech maybe misses the boat. So I guess like when you look at like what the software companies are doing, so much of it is in terms of distribution. And I think that's fantastic. Let's get it out there. Let's have chatbots. I love it. If I had known there would be this much interest in these chatbots, I would have made a whole company around it. You can get like the Lex platform, which is sort of the developer side of Amazon Alexa, or some of the others. You can do work really quick. I think you can integrate them very easy. I think it's great. I think we should all do that. I don't think anyone should be too excited, and I think every insurance company has some young developers who would love to do that work, and they should just do it. But I don't think it's going to transform anything. I think that new way, pushing insurance out to the consumer more, I think that ultimately makes sense. I think commercial insurers will have some trouble. I think we'll see it more for program business and commercial insurance, people with a very tight underwriting box. And that's personally where I have an interest in, and I think we could help. But I think out in distribution, that's fine. I think that there's a lot of talk around technologies and solutions, I guess, that will help insurers work together. McKinsey had a big piece about ecosystems and platforms, which was really popular. And it's all about insurance having rich APIs to sort of work inside and outside the industry better. I love that. I believe in that. I'm someone that started my career doing like SEMSI, work on AL3 to copybook transformations. But I think that needs to come from within the industry. I don't think a software company who's going to jump up and down and talk about blockchain as the future of insurance companies working with their partners. I don't think they're going to do it. I think the solution will look much more like Ivan's in the 80s, where insurance companies will come together and form companies and do it for themselves. And so, I've been a part of a lot of companies who have gone down like a commercial exchange. I think that now there's technology that maybe supports that more, but it was always a problem that no one wanted to jump into. I think that cooperating in the industry is always a bit of an issue. The big guys don't want to, and the little guys don't have as much to offer coming together. So I guess I'm all over the place from insurtech, but I would just say I see a lot of solutions being offered before insurance carriers are really presenting problems that they want solved.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I want to go into the commercial aspect of it. There's a lot of insurtech on the personal line side.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of insurtech on the commercial line side. I think, there have been some attempts from a distribution standpoint. Hey, commercial brokers make too much money. Might be true. So there's been some attempts at that, or exchanges, as you mentioned. What's unique about the commercial? For our audience, talk about the difference between commercial lines and personal lines, and why commercial lines is just so much more difficult from every aspect for insurtech to attack.
Because I think it all comes down to underwriting. I think that commercial insurance requires underwriting. Now, that's a big word, commercial, and it goes down from small, business owners' policies for tiny little companies to huge.
That could be part of it, right?
All got to be part of it.
Is that it's so wide and varied and complex that when someone tries to say we're going to attack commercial, it's like, well, what? The pizza place or the industrial facility?
Yeah, exactly. And underwriters are important there. And I think that I don't see anything compelling that tells me that a commercial underwriter for anything but the most simple things can be automated away. So I spent some time, I spent some time at a company, Zuber, owned by Exchanging, and they were very much a international insurance software provider out of London. But you go to the places we were there, like London and Bermuda, those underwriters were treated like magicians. They were rock stars. And the reason is because they knew how to develop business and price it better than anybody else. And rich men felt very comfortable investing in their capability to do that. I don't know how software is ever going to do that. I think it will always require a human element, a bit of a touch and feel to these things to underwrite. And it will also require a human to be accountable should things go bad. I think it's much easier to make a mistake with a human being that you could say, you did this wrong, you're gone, than having invested $1 billion into some machine learning, deep learning system have that make mistakes, and then everyone shares the blame. So I think that because underwriting is so important, reason one, we don't see a ton of insurtech out there automating everything. The second, and here it's a whole debate, I guess, I feel pretty strongly about it. There's a real role for independent agents in commercial insurance. Very little commercial insurance goes direct to consumer. I think agents provide a very valuable role. And I think that insurance companies don't want to do things to marginalize or scare that independent agency channel. They just want to enable them. And I think that there's 15 years of strong investment from both carriers and software vendors in how best to modernize that agency channel. I think that there's still a lot of work to do there. And I think that's why you don't see a lot of investment or a lot of, sexy insurtech companies playing in that space, because I think that there's we know that space right now. It's not as sort of it's not as exciting maybe as some of the others, but I think that we sort of know what that needs to look like now. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
So you're a new company, so that's going to hit that hockey stick. You're going to start to grow rapidly. Insurance is not sexy, right? So you fell into it. I fell into it. I think most of the people I know have fallen into it. They weren't intending to go into that career. So in your business, how would you suggest making the industry attractive? How are you planning on getting the talent that you're directly competing with the Googles and high tech companies? How are you planning to get the talent to come in to an industry that's frankly not very attractive to them?
Yeah. Let me answer it first by saying this, that I think that I came into insurance at the end of insurance companies being very, very interested in developing outsiders for the industry from a technology perspective. So I came up through a program that was teaching anybody who was qualified how to be a mainframe developer. I was there with college students that were English majors. I was there with people on their second careers, and they took us, and for 12 weeks, they put us somewhere else, and they trained us to be junior developers and sent us into the world to make mistakes and be useless. And it was probably a 2-year process before we were really, really, paid off that investment. I think that type of thing, maybe with the outsourcing that happened at the beginning of the millennium, that sort of fell off. And I think maybe now it's coming back a little bit, but I think it's important. I don't know that we're ever going to take the data scientists out of Silicon Valley. I don't know that we're ever going to take the real smart quant guys out of finance in New York. I think that we should find smart people anywhere, and we should make them smart in insurance. Insurance is not rocket science. I always say it's just complicated enough that it keeps other people out, but it's simple enough that anyone who spends the time can figure out what's going on. We should do more to bring people in and not worry that we're bringing them in from any of these great places, Silicon Valley or whatever. We should just bring in anybody before they even get a chance to get out there. And I think that there's a wide range of possibilities there. That being said, I will talk about us personally. We have a huge advantage that we have a huge, practice in St. Petersburg, Russia. There's a lot of universities there, and there's something about that Russian education system that is spitting out the most desirable developers. We can get PhDs with machine learning backgrounds for prices that you unheard of in any industry in the States. And we can get them no problem. We can get developers, very, very good developers with, finance and insurance experience very, very effectively. So I do think that looking for places where you can get that talent more readily is another option. But other than that, I think that insurance is always going to be what it is. It's a boring industry. I think that, my greatest talent, the thing that's it's shown me any success I've had here, is my ability to get excited about insurance. And so I think that maybe that's what we need to look for, is people that can get in and get excited about it. I think it's easier to train on technical skills than it is to find someone that can really get into insurance. So
I could tell you from someone that's had to craft requirements for hiring.
yeah.
The requirements are almost silly. We prematurely set the bar too high. I recall for one position we were hiring, it's like they had to know SQL Server to get in. And I remember asking, like, why do they need to know that? If they're smart, they can pick that up. That's easy enough. And I that's one of my issues that I have with what the industry does is they don't onboard well, they don't train well. So sometimes they can get them in, but they can't get them to stay.
Yep.
And I find that very frustrating, because I think I think we're on the same page when it comes to, hey, you should just be hiring really smart people and train them.
So let me give me 1 minute and just dream with me, because I have a dream.
You again, platform's yours. Take more
So,
than that.
as we're growing this company, there was a businessman who was he was very pivotal to it, and he's a very successful man. And one of his thoughts was that you got to get to a place where you are giving back, that there should be some percentage of your company that is going to a not-for-profit. And we're not there yet, but I always thought to myself that what I think is that I could find the smartest kids from underserved communities. I could find the smartest kids, maybe that weren't planning to go to college or planning to go to community college. I could hire them, put them in an office building, and I would teach them how to do QA testing for insurance companies. I would get a fantastic rate card on them. It would be a not-for-profit. We would do real work, and I could funnel people from nothing through that type of work to become experts on insurance from a BA perspective and from a technical and a testing perspective. And I think that I could compete on a rate basis with any sort of offshore company doing it, and I could murder the onshore guys. That's just me dreaming right now. It's just out there. But yeah, let's just do it. Like, again, there is so much when you look at like what, the big QA third parties, like, you're not getting rocket scientists with those guys. And I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning and says, hey, that third party shop doing QA for us, I'm so happy with them. I love what's going on. I think I could exceed all expectations, and I could do it training people up. So I guess it goes back to my point that, and I'm part of the problem, that there do more to bring net new people into this industry. We should start with the less glamorous things, and we should just see who rises up through there. I think there's a big opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. I think I cut you off a little bit right at the beginning, and you said, I have a dream. I think I'm going to name this podcast the I Have a Dream podcast. And
no. I don't. Those are comparisons I don't feel comfortable with. No one would ever achieve of being humble, and that's only going to throw gasoline onto the fire.
Hey, quick question. Russia.
Yeah.
What's it like having an offshore office there? So hours wise and also language wise, what's it like to work with a separate office that's that far away, and you have all of these potential issues?
Yeah, I'll answer that. So the language is easy, is that we typically, we only hire people that are fluent in English. They're very good at that. And I think it's a very desirable skill. So over there, they want more experience speaking English. They want to be able to say they've worked well with English-speaking companies. So we've been very lucky there. We do have a plan once we don't want to become constrained there from a talent pipeline perspective. So there are lots of companies there that offer programs, English language fluency programs, to sort of get people from maybe a basic fluency to more intermediate levels. It's something we have plans to start offering it as the need starts. But I feel very good from an English language perspective. The times, listen, it's a little harder. They are 8 hours ahead of us. So the reality is that, we work a little bit earlier. They work a little bit later. and we just sort of manage it all. It hasn't been an issue. It's easier than some of the other offshore locations. So we've been able to do all right there.
Cool, cool. You care to play a little wordplay game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. It doesn't have to be a single word, but first thoughts that come out of your mind. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 different words, and whatever pops up in your head, blurt it out. Kids aren't watching, so it's we can rate this R.
Whoa. Okay.
First word. You mentioned it before, but let's get your deep feelings about blockchain.
Useless for insurance.
Okay, there you go. AS400.
Old, dependable. Yeah,
Dependable.
reliable. Yeah,
Okay.
big iron. Oh.
I like that. The last carrier I worked at was using an AS400, and as you were rattling off all the potential problems, I'm like, checkbox. Yep. Dealt with that. Yes. What's funny about the AS400 was with them was they had a dedicated team from Accenture. There was basically no one in the company that knew how to get data off of that machine. They had to hire consultants to do that.
So my retirement plan is I want to be the last person in America, the youngest person that is really good on IBM mainframe COBOL. And I have an even more specific skill, which is IMS database. In 45 years, I'll be the last living person that is good with them. And that's how I'm going to retire, on that skill set. It'll all come around full circle.
Nice. We will document that for you. How about that?
Oh, good.
We'll make sure the world knows. Okay, the last one, you brought them up as well. Just want to get your feelings on it. I have everyone that's listening to this pretty much knows where I'm coming from, but what are your feelings about Lemonade?
Oh, naive about insurance. Terrible ratios.
Yeah, the ratios came out again.
Yeah.
Tony Kanyas from Insurance Nerds posted it on our Slack channel and said, "Hey, what do you guys all think about this?" And I said, "I will translate this article so no one has to read it. Insurance was much harder than we thought it was going to be."
God bless their transparency, though. Like, sure. They're not proud of it, but they tell us. I have some respect for that.
And I think given what they've done, it's naivete on their part. If they could eliminate their smugness, I would be a big fan, because I just think from a transparency perspective, distribution, making things easy. They were to me, they were really the first ones to push out the chatbots and make that. Maybe they pushed it out too aggressively, but I do want them to succeed. It's just, I just want them to be just a bit more humble. That's all.
And let me say, I will say something positive about them. I don't know that it will ever survive sort of the trials and the courts and the lawyers. This open source policy that they've got, I dig everything about that. I think that taking sort of those policy documents, and if there is some way to do it and not get absolutely murdered in the claims side of things, and sort of all coming together and deciding what makes a reasonable insurance policy, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. I came down a little bit hard on them simply because I felt like they were looking for everyone else to do their job. That their lack of understanding of the industry, they pushed it out and they said, well, we'll just open source this and we'll just have everyone complete this form for us. And everyone's like patting them on the back for that. And I'm just like, well, one, as it stands today, it's easy to read, but it basically covers nothing. And,
right.
And they threw out words like stuff. And I'm like, someone's going to have to define it. So it's good. The policy form's going to get more complicated. Here's where I was coming from. They wanted other people to make it complicated. That way they could say, hey, we tried. It's the lawyers. It's not us.
Oh, that's a cynical take, and I like it very much. But yeah, you could be right. We'll see after 5 years of lawsuits what those policies look like.
But I am a big fan of those policy forms have to be made simpler. I mean, they're just they are ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm a fan of that. Okay. Luke, this is the part of the podcast where we're going to the more personal stuff. So we get to know
Oh,
who you are. So I'd like to know, when you aren't working, please tell me that you're not programming. What do you like to do?
no, I'm not. What do I do? So I'm a husband and a father of two small boys, 4 and 2. So that is very all-consuming for me.
Juggling.
Yeah, they're forces of nature. What else? I'm a cyclist. I like a bicycle. I read a lot. We live in a golden age of television right now. So
That's true. That's true. Where are you based?
I'm in Connecticut,
Okay.
south of Hartford a bit.
Okay. So I have to ask you the tough question now.
Yeah,
Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
Oh, thank God. Okay,
I'm
you
on
can
the
stay.
right side of the Connecticut River, so.
Yeah, so you will. We will make sure we broadcast this. If it was the other way around, I might have to lose the file. It's corrupt. Oh, that's good. So, what tools or techniques? Now, I'm expecting like some really meaty answers from you.
No, you know what? I'm a dilettante when it comes to tools and techniques, and for a while I was all about that getting things done, and then it
Mhm.
was bullet journals, and then I've come to a realization that I don't have the discipline or attention span for any of it. I subscribe to one important thing, and it's that there are no unread emails in my inbox ever. Uh, Everything gets read and either scheduled via the Outlook or whatever, or just left in there. And I respond and read emails all the time. I'm always a little bit plugged in, which means that I can be less plugged in at other times. But that's how I live. And other than that, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Um, I'm terrible. I'm terrible with systems. I'm terrible with that. I think I have my own way of doing it, but I couldn't define it for you. And until I forget the next thing and read the next book, that's what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, so I was reading an article. I think it was on Medium. I'll try to dig it up. That was talking about how technology cannot save human beings
Mhm.
from ourselves when it comes to like productivity and organization. I mean, they're helping around the fringes, but at the end of the day, do you really want like an app that has to tell you to put the phone down?
Right.
Just at some point, it's like we need to take responsibility for ourselves. And hey, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone else. It's, you know, me, myself. I'm always looking for an app. That's why I asked this question. Maybe Luke has some kind of super app, but after doing this almost 100 times now, 100 interviews, I'm coming to the realization that we just have to man up when it comes to these kinds of things.
I You're right. I personally think you're right
Yeah.
right now, but I'll read one article tomorrow and I'll be somewhere completely different. So I change with the weather about this time.
Okay. Final question for you,
Mhm.
Luke. What books have you found to be influential in your business and or personal lives?
Yeah, this is a tough one. Look, I have like easy answers and not. I'm I'm not a big business book reader. I put great stock in Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I thought there was some good stuff there. But other than that, there's not been a ton that I've really gotten a lot from. For insurance, though, I do think Against the Gods, which is a history of risk, it is a great read. I'd be lying if I said it changes how I do anything, but it made me feel like I was part of something more important than I did. In my personal life, again, I couldn't even, I could probably just, I think I could say East of Eden changed my life. But the reality is that's not true. And I read a lot, but nothing ever redeeming. If a book doesn't have a wizard or a spaceship in it, I probably won't read it. So, I love the act of reading. I want my boys to be readers, but it's been a long time since I've read something that anybody would look at and say anything but that's garbage.
Okay, well, that's okay. What are you reading now?
Right now, I'm reading Revenger by Alistair Reynolds. It's about a spaceship.
That's okay. I don't think you'd be surprised. A lot of our listeners like spaceships. A lot of our other listeners like dragons.
Perfect. I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in.
absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, Seven Habits are that if you had to put one book, say, if I had to recommend one book for a college grad,
Mm.
get their career going, I would say master those fundamentals, live them, and absorb all the other information. But that's the foundation. Like that. Well,
Yeah.
that's what you build your career upon. Living through those seven habits. It's those are really good habits to have in your career.
In your life, there's something about integrity and everything that
Yeah.
he wrote, and I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. And I guess you don't know this, but I've said this on other podcasts. Against the Gods is what sold me in insurance. So I was a
Oh,
brand new employee, and I was unsure. I had just left graduate medical school and didn't know if this was the right career to be in. And I read that book, and I said, I think I can make a career here. That
wow.
is interesting. So great
Oh,
book.
yours was great. My experience was different. I read it last year and then walked around the house for a week saying, I'm a part of something pretty great. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Like, this isn't as stupid as I've been talking about. This is great.
Yeah. Yep. My magical moment was when I went to London, and I got
Yep.
a personal tour of Lloyd's of London.
Yep.
And I felt like I was a small piece in something that was much bigger. It's like when I go hiking in the mountains and I'm just like in awe of nature. I was like in awe of like the industry, just looking at the Lloyd's building and the history of the 300 years. I said, whatever I do, I will be a very small sliver of what this institution has done. So I would like to be a part of it and add to that lore and legacy.
That's a fantastic. So my story is so much worse. It's that after I got a tour of Lloyd's, and then I'm drinking heavily at lunch at the Lamb and Leadenhall Market afterwards, and I look around and everyone is underwriters and agents doing making deals over drinks at lunch, and I said to myself, oh, I mean, I understand why this is so much better than every other industry.
Deals on the back of napkins at bars. You
Oh,
can't get
what
better
a
than
world
that.
it must be! What
Yes.
a world!
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, that part of it adds to the lore. It adds, I've heard lots of stories beyond just like how awesome that would be. I've heard so many stories of claims that have gotten that went bad, and that napkin, right, was honored. Like those
Oh.
people that go there, and there are women there now, but before it was just the gentleman. And if you were part of Lloyd's, you were considered a gentleman, and it was dishonorable if you made a verbal or written promise, even drunkenly on the back of a napkin, and you didn't fulfill your end of the bargain. That was dishonorable, and it's hard to show your face. I love that story.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Fantastic.
Luke, how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah. So certainly LinkedIn is a great place. You can visit us on the web. So it's www.combinedratio, but the dot is before the IO. No, it's not the best way. www.combinedrat.io.
I love that.
You know what? So
It's
I love
cool.
it too, and I had to fight for it. But my partner was right in that it's impossible to tell people with words what that is. He says it's combinedrat.io.
I'm not sure if that's good marketing, but
No, it's
but
not.
but the name itself, when you look at it in the web address, it's actually pretty cool. They're like, I see what they did. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
yeah,
saying that.
yeah.
No, it's good. Redeems me.
Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday. Much appreciated. Jim was right. You were very worthy to come on, and I would love to follow Combined Ratio. So as you guys do start to accelerate, and as you do start to take outside money and do that scaling thing, let's have you back. Let's talk again.
Absolutely. I had a blast. Thank you so much.
Okay. My guest this week has been Luke Magnan of Combined Ratio Solutions. Thanks again.
My pleasure.